Right, it's high time to welcome in our guests from Dolphins UK Podcast, Andy and Lee. How you doing, boys?
Hi guys, yeah, all right. Just awake slightly. still need to go back to bed in a minute, I think. But yeah, all good.
I know how you're
How about
feeling.
you,
I'm
Lee?
wiping the sleep out of my eyes. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate your time and getting up so early. How did you find all of round one?
Go on, Lee. After you.
Up and down. I think it's the easiest way. Up and down. That's maybe just for me personally. I was pleased with the Dolphins picks, to be quite honest. Especially Waddle. I think we've kind of been talking about it for maybe the best part of 2 months. I thought Waddle was the guy early on, and I think he still would have been the guy had Chase been there. I know during the draft they kept saying that the Dolphins were hoping Pitts or Chase would be there. If that had been the case, you don't move out of the third pick, because you guaranteed at least one of them was gone. So I think that was too much of a risk if they were really locked in on Chase or Pitts. But yeah, over the moon with Waddle just makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I was kind of banging the table for your guy actually all kind of off season for Saul. I was very hyped. I thought when it kind of came out that he was starting to practice at right tackle that we've got the kind of protection for Tua's blindside sorted. But no, I mean I'm like Lee. I'm happy with Waddle. I think kind of adds a hell of a lot of playmaking ability to that Dolphins offense. But I'm slightly dubious on Phillips, not because of talent, just because of kind of concussions and past injury and stuff like that. It feels like could be a really, really good pick if nothing flares up. But, only one complete season so far. And, at the college level, it's obviously a lot different as well. So it feels like once he takes a couple of hard hits, we'll kind of get the measure of who he's going to be for the Dolphins.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me a little bit about yourselves and the podcast as well, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So Simon's who's not here with us, kind of got us together as the Dolphin UK sort of membership group, and you can pay membership fee, get involved with that. It's kind of like the first kind of official Dolphins club in the UK. So we're just kind of a side branch of that. Really, we've been going just about a year now. Got a really kind of nice little following both here and in the States, which is great. Just every week like to get together and chat. Lee was far more optimistic than me about the last season. He predicted 10-6. Basically, whatever Lee predicts happens. Like he's had Waddle, he's had us going 10-6. I think you even said you might miss out on the playoffs at 10-6 as well, which just seemed completely crazy. But so just lots of good Dolphins chat, and it's a really weird like community, Dolphins community, isn't it, Lee? It's like either kind of at your throat or like everyone's like really peace and love. So it just depends what day you get them on.
Yeah, everyone's harmonious leading into the draft. We all know what we want. Just waiting for hell to open up when the pick is made, and it wouldn't have mattered who it was. It was always going to be the worst pick ever. So it's always fun to watch the fan meltdown on Twitter.
It's the same in every team. It's unbelievable, isn't it? How one pick splits the fan base so completely. Considering your psychic powers, Lee, how are the Dolphins going to do next year? Just so we know.
They'll win 11 games next year.
Ooh,
that's
the
based on the
game
that's based
is a win.
Yeah, it's based on the schedule being a little bit harder than last year. I think they make the playoffs this time. I think they're a better team than last year, but I don't think it necessarily results in 3 more wins, 4 more wins. Do you know what I mean? They may even only win 10 games, but I think they will be a better on the field team than they were last year.
So you've obviously picked, as you said, Waddle at 6 and Phillips at 18. Were you convinced at all by the rumours that you might have traded down to pick up more capital than you traded up for from 12?
A little bit at one point. I mean, when Fields got got out of there, I thought someone would come up and get him. Didn't think he'd slide to 11 for sure. I thought we'd kind of maybe move back even a couple of picks with the Broncos or something like that. I was also fairly convinced that we were going to shift back from 18 to kind of mid-20s. Someone like the Browns come up and get their guy, but obviously no need. It was kind of quite light in general on trades last night, wasn't it? I think you'll kind of see that kick off a bit more today as there's loads of teams got loads of needs, and the guys will, the talent will suddenly crunch down into from the kind of guys that have fallen out of the first round. They'll still be sat there for the first 10 or so picks, but then it will kind of move around. So yeah, I can see us shifting back a bit today. Actually, a lot of people want a running back. I can't see us like sticking around for Javonte Williams if we've not gone in on Harris and Etienne yesterday. So yeah, we'll have to see.
And the Jalen Phillips pick went in really quickly. It was one of the quickest picks made, in those first 20 picks. The Dolphins obviously knew who they wanted. So I think now knowing what we know, I think it's, they weren't really looking to move back. Also, we know from the deals Chris Greer makes, he's going to take a ransom from somebody to move up no matter where it is. He seems to always get his way or not, or doesn't bother. So I don't think anyone was going to be able to offer kind of catch Chris Greer thinking, I'll move back if I can pick up anything extra. I think he would have wanted a premium for it no matter what, even if that's, not seen as the right way to do it. I think, that seems to be the way he operates.
Well, and that way of operating got you one of the best trade downs of the last few years, really. The value you get there, especially when they pick Trey Lance, who is not helping them year one. I mean, he could be one of the best quarterbacks in the league 3 years from now. That's the sort of upside perhaps he has. But year one, in a win now mode, it's not helping them, and you're set up for the future once again. That one trade keeps paying dividends for you.
That's it, and the fact that we've traded our first round pick next year instead of the 49ers pick would suggest that the Dolphins are in full agreement that Lance isn't the guy to bring immediate success there, wouldn't it?
Any questions, Ant?
Yeah, so obviously you're picking, I think, 4th tonight in the second round. Where do you think the Dolphins go next? Is there a personal preference for you, a guy who's dropped out the first, maybe you'd be delighted to get there?
Go on, Lee.
I think it's Koromoa is the guy that we never expected to be getting out the first round. Whether he's still there at pick 4, I think this is really interesting thing where people get wrapped up in the draft in day one, and then when you've got that gap between day 1 and day 2 starting, everyone starts to realize, like, oh, hang on, these guys are still around, and I think you see less players starting to kind of fall almost by accident. I think sometimes, people just get caught up in the whirlwind of day one. But I think that would be a great pick. I mean, people had him mocked to us at 18 for weeks and weeks, and you could see why they were doing it. It's definitely a position where we could do with an upgrade. I mean, even though we're a 10-win team, and I was quite bullish on the team, there's still plenty of places they could upgrade. There's plenty of places to go. I'm not under the impression that this is some sort of Super Bowl ready team. So there's plenty of options.
Yeah, and for me, maybe like a right tackle. So Tevin Jenkins, maybe if he's still around, or someone like Eichenberg and shift him across. I'm convinced that we need more offensive line help. I don't think you can ever have enough. And I watched. What did I watch back earlier? I watched us play the Bengals earlier, and Tua just kind of getting whacked every time he dropped back 3 steps and bang. I was like, okay, this isn't going to be sustainable. So yeah, we definitely need to add some more bodies on that line.
Well, you mentioned linebacker there. Obviously, it'd be a steal to get a Koromoa there, but away from the draft, Kyle Van Noy letting him go. What was your guys' reaction to that? Because that came as a bit of a shock. He's a leader on there. It seemed a bit of a weird decision to let him go.
Go on, Lee. You're the man there.
I think the Dolphins are really quick to if it's not panning out the way they think it's going to, they're willing to cut bait quickly. They're not going to keep someone on the roster just because they paid them a lot of money. The contract is also structured quite well where there's no big hits going forward. He's not counting a massive amount against the cap next year and the year after. It's the kind of money was all paid, or at least the majority of it. I'm a big fan of the way the Dolphins are willing to admit that they've made mistakes, because there's no GM out there hitting on every free agent, every draft pick. That's just not the case. So you saw it with Jordan Howard, signed him in free agency, cut him during the season. If it's not working, it's not working. Let's do something different. So I'm a big fan of it. With Carl Van Noy, I just get the feeling that there's something that we don't know that was going on, because he seemed like such a perfect fit. It made so much sense in free agency. I know, a lot of people thought we overpaid, but we weren't necessarily a winning team, so you do have to, you are going to pay a bit of a premium. It's the guy you want, so I wasn't upset with what they paid. Just think maybe the fit wasn't quite as good as they thought off the field as it was on the field. And it's not to say that Carl Van Nooy's a bad guy, always came across well in the media and stuff like that. I think maybe it just wasn't quite as great a fit. And I think they feel the production they can replace for less money.
Are there any guys further down the draft when you've been kind of doing deeper dives or mock drafts that you kind of find you're consistently mocking to yourselves, that you've kind of fallen in love with a bit? Are there any draft crushes down there?
Oh man, I got a few. I really like Emir Smith-Marset, wide receiver out of Iowa. Kind of lovely, smooth right runner. I think I don't know whether we'd go. We've got 1 third-round pick. I don't know whether that would be a thing that we did after we took Waddle, to be honest. But I think safety is the position that I really think we need to target in that 3rd round. I think our Darius Washington. Sideline to sideline, really quick, slightly undersized, and yesterday I was saying to Lee, kind of reminds me a bit of Anton Winfield, and kind of have that kind of hard hitting impact with slipping a bit because of his athlete, his size. That's the one after his size, but I think he's one of the best safeties in the class, and I think those safeties are going to start going off the board quite quickly. So if he's still there in the 3rd round, then sign me up. Lee, anyone your side?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how many times I come back to it. Every time I see Quinn Miners on the board, they just loved him at the Senior Bowl. And, they were very purposeful about making sure they coached at the Senior Bowl. I don't know, it just seems too good a fit. I don't know if that means it's no guarantee it's going to work out or anything like that. But I'm a big fan of if you've got a guy, get him. I'm not really so concerned about draft value. I don't want to come out of the draft without you getting your guys. Last year we know the Dolphins were interested in running backs, and each time they were taking a couple of picks before they pick, just move up and take them. Do you know what I mean? Don't come out, because otherwise you've got coaches that get fired and they're like, oh well, we didn't get our guys and stuff like that. Just get them, and then if the plan's good, it will work out.
Yeah. If you've made a plan, you didn't get your guys, and it didn't work out, well, you didn't make a good enough plan. You should have had a backup plan. It's not an excuse, which works at all.
Yes.
So the Senior Bowl point is really something. So we coached the Senior Bowl the year before, ended up taking John Penasini, who's a nose tackle, in the 6th round. And he came in and was an instant contributor. Now, he's not a flashy player. It's a nose tackle, but he held up well in the run, which is what we needed to do. And people, I think, really underrate the teams that are coaching in the Senior Bowl being able to make these kind of really good value picks lower down there. So I'm looking out for Quinn Miners for you guys too. I think it's a really good pick.
Yeah, and it's also a real position of need. Do you know what I mean? They had him play centre during the Senior Bowl. They moved him across a few different positions. I think they were able to see some versatility, which they liked. I mean, I know it's not a popular comment, and I've made it a few times on our podcast. I don't think the Dolphins were interested at the top end of the draft with players who opted out. Now, if the teams opted out of last season, that's different. But that's why I think would have been the difference between Jamar Chase was on the board. I still think they would have gone Waddle, because they want guys that are all about football. And, that's why the coaches were so pleased to be able to coach at the Senior Bowl. They just want people that are football all the time. And I think you can make some arguments for Jamar Chase. Obviously, you can't hold it against anyone for opting out because of COVID. It is dangerous for sure, but also you could see that LSU team wasn't going to be as good. Was that going to hurt his draft stock? So he was better sitting out for a year. And I think for the Dolphins coaching staff higher up the board, they're just going to want. I just think they want players that played last year. Now further down the board, they're going to take some risks. We've obviously seen that injury history is not necessarily such a big concern. Didn't stop them taking Tua. Didn't stop them taking Jalen Phillips. I think that's less of a concern than some of the other factors.
Yeah. If I could just ask one more, obviously after the draft last night, how do you guys feel the landscape of your division has changed now? Because obviously you've got Zach Wilson there at the Jets, Mac Jones in at the Patriots. How do you look at them? Do you see any of them as an immediate threat to you, or were you quite glad that the Patriots went with Jones instead of someone like Fields?
And I've literally just hit publish on an article for the full 10 yards for this, but I think like it's quite condescending, isn't it, to kind of say that we're really happy with Mac Jones going there, because when you look at like the fact that he's an unathletic dude that didn't play a lot for a big program, and then you look at the last dude they had that did that, it's like, you know, it would definitely kind of tempting fate. But I'm very much happier that it's Jones. I think there's a few issues that kind of don't really translate to today's game very well. I think he's going to have a bit of a harder time getting up to speed than some of the other guys. So yeah, I'm happy with that. But also when you kind of consider the fact that Bill's there, obviously, and then you've got Cam Newton probably doesn't really want to be mentoring his successor, but at the same time, what a great guy to kind of learn from in terms of experience and what he's done in the league. So I don't think Patriots fans can be too disappointed. To be honest, the Bills again, I mean, I obviously heard you talking about Greg Rousseau just before we joined you, and it's like you say, boom or bust pick there. But if he kind of plays up to that raw athletic talent, then God, that's going to be painful if we haven't got that right tackle sorted fairly soon. So I'm like, the Bills are the team to beat. I think they potentially got stronger last night, and so it's just going to be a bit of an ongoing kind of how do we get the better of them sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the Bills are in a position to take boom or bust players because they're a solid team. The foundation is already there. So I think you're able to go out on a limb a little bit more. I think, you know, they're pretty solid across the board. I'm in the opposite camp when it comes to Mac Jones, though, because I think Mac Jones is the absolute perfect fit for New England. I think they want someone who's playing in the system. I don't want to compare him to Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's best trait is his decision-making and playing within the system. You know, execute what's called and know the game plan inside out. And I think that seems to be kind of Mac Jones's wheelhouse. So that does scare me a bit. I do, but to go to Andy's point about being mentored or working with Cam Newton, I'm not a big fan of when teams have two quarterbacks with kind of opposing styles, and I don't necessarily think that's conducive to bringing him along well or helping him on the field, because they see and read the game completely different, because Cam's willing to use his legs more than Mac Jones definitely should do, because let's be honest, he's not particularly athletic. So, you know, I don't know how that translates to helping him on the field other than with the sort of study side of things and sort of reading defenses.
Yeah, the leadership style.
Are you worried about Wilson and the Jets, or are they just rebuilding and no threat to you at the moment?
For me, I'm worried because obviously it could turn out great. Like he looks like he's got massive upside, but at the same time, when you've got franchises that make bad decisions consistently, until they start proving they can make good decisions, like Robert Saleh looks like he could be a great coach, but so does every rookie head coach before he coaches a game. You know, that's. And until they start making proven good decisions, I'm not necessarily that concerned, and I hope not to eat my words later in the year. But you know, I say, you know, when you've got franchises that make historically bad decisions, then you know you can expect it. And I think we saw the same thing very much as Cincinnati. You know, the common consensus was you need to protect Joe Burrow. Well, of course, no, we're going to take Jamar Chase. So. I mean, I can see the argument for it, but if it was me, I'd definitely want to be keeping my quarterback upright.
Yeah, something I actually wanted to ask you guys, and I know we've taken up a bit more of your time than we expected, but talking about rookie head coaches who you don't know how good they are until they've coached their first game, Dan Campbell obviously has had experience coaching, and how did you feel about him while he was there, and do you think that we're onto a good one here?
Lee, you'll have more experience with that one.
I liked Dan Campbell. I thought the team liked him as well. The players loved him. They loved the atmosphere he brought. I hope that he's learned some lessons moving on from it. I mean, when he was a temporary head coach of the Dolphins, it was obviously because of a firing. So I think it's a tough position for anyone to be put in. You're not really ready for it in the same way. So I think the first couple of games they won, I believe they won in a massive blowout in Tennessee and then a blowout at home to the Texans, and everything seemed rosy. But when things got a little bit rougher, I'm not sure the in-game adjustments and stuff were up to where you'd want them to be. But that's why when he went through the coaching interview process with Miami and didn't get the job. You know, he decided to move on to get that experience. I think I'd like to have seen him be a coordinator somewhere rather than just a tight ends coach. But at the same time, I think if you're a leader, it goes a long way to getting players to, you know, to buy into what you want to do. So I think he's got. I would be much happier with Dan Campbell than I would with Zach Taylor.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you so much both for coming on. Is there anything you want to plug or anything before you go? You're on the First and 10 network, is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I mean, we'll give the pod a plug, Dolphin UK_pod. But yeah, thanks for having us on, guys. You know, really appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of the day. And man, I must say that the Lions are one of my kind of sneaky favorite teams. I must say that I'm a huge Matt Stafford guy, and I know that's not really great for you to hear now, but I did really enjoy kind of watching him for the last 10 years or so. So hopefully you guys kind of get back on the front foot in the next couple of years.
Hope so, man. I hope you're right. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on.
Cheers, guys.
Appreciate it.
Guys.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Thanks.
Bye.